Dry embossed images can make such a difference on a card. Well, today we're going to take those images and we're going to step them up a notch. Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. I'm so glad you're joining me for today's Tuesday tip because we're going to feature a really amazing little technique with embossing, but we're going to step it up a notch. We're going to use our blending brushes to create a really great detailed look. Plus, as a bonus, these cards have a little exciting feature to them. So before we jump into our cards, I want to share the supplies you're going to need to create the cards. I love to provide you with a free download to go along with every video that I share. And so I don't want you to mess with writing down any measurements because I've got them all for you in one really incredible download. So you'll have the supplies, you'll have the measurements, cutting, scoring, all that great stuff. Photos, of course, and right here is a QR code. This is going to bring you right back here to YouTube. So if you need to watch the video again, you'll be able to do that. And if you're in the United States, I would love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. If you fall in love with any of the supplies I used on today's card, here's the complete supply here. You can click this image or you can just follow that link. It'll take you right to my online store and you can order any of the items I used right there. I appreciate your orders so much. It allows me to keep my channel going, so thank you so much for that. All right, now let's jump into our card. So you can see they really are beautiful. We're going to do two fun techniques with our embossing, but I think the really fun part of the card is also this interlocking flap. So yes, it does lock your card closed, and we've got plenty of room to write our fantastic message. And yep, that flap's just going to go right inside underneath the embossing. We're going to begin with this one, You're the Best. We're going to begin with a piece of Darling Duckling, and this is an 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Let's do a little trimming. So with the 8.5 up at the top, we are going to cut this down to 2 1/8 inch. All right, so that is my card base. Now with this piece, we're going to do a little more trimming. We're going to cut this down to 1 3/4 by 5 1/8. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this piece to do our embossing. So we used our cardstock very wisely. I'll be using the new sunflower embossing folder. Now, this thing's huge, right? Look at that. It's bigger than my hand. We're going to take that piece of cardstock. This was that 1 3/4 by 5 1/8. And I'm going to lay it, I just kind of want to lay it somewhere where I feel like I get the most of the flower. So I'm thinking about that. Okay, so we can kind of get this flower right here. I'm going to run that through my die cut and emboss machine, and we're going to have something like this. Now we do need to emboss one more piece of cardstock. Now this is really just a little scrap, but it is 3 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch, and then I've scored at 1/2 inch there on the side. All right, so with this one, I don't want to do any embossing on this little 1/2 inch flap, but I do want to get as much of a flower as I can. So I'm going to line it up. Can you see? I'm just making sure not to get that flap. So I will place that right there. I'm going to run this through my machine as well. And you can see that allowed me to avoid that. All right. Let's do some magic. We're going to do some really great blending that's going to make those embossed images really pop. So I've got my Darling Duckling and my Pecan Pie ink pads, and then I'm also going to bring in some blending brushes as well. I'm going to use small. I really recommend the smalls for this. And let me show you what we're going to do. Let's start with our Darling Duckling, although you could start with either one. And so what we want to do is we want to ink up our blending brush, and I always like to get some of the heaviness of that ink off of there first. Now of course this is just for the petals of our sunflower, so I'm going to begin by lightly blending my blending brush onto the petals. Now the harder or the further I get and more that ink starts coming up, then I can start to press a little bit harder. It's going to get more of the ink that's kind of gotten down into my my blending brush. So I think you can see there's sort of the difference there. Can you see that? So I'm going to repeat that with this little flower here, and then I'm also going to do that to my flap. Now with our pecan pie, let's add the center to our flowers. Now with this one, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I really want to focus on the tip. So I'm going to really angle my blending brush so that I'm really just getting the tip. Again, I want to get that kind of the bulk of that out. See how it gets kind of blotchy? And I like to make sure when I'm about to add this, I have a nice smooth piece of ink. I don't think ink is a piece, but you follow me, right? And we're going to take just the tip and we will color in. And if you want to add a little bit more, we can come in maybe just a little bit more there to the center. All right. I'm going to repeat that again, focusing, look at that, focusing just on the tip of my blending brush. Let's see if I have enough ink. Nope, going to need a little more. That's okay. And if it bleeds out onto the petals, don't worry about it. It really looks beautiful and it gives that nice soft blending, and that's what we're going for. All right, there we go, friends. I can't believe it. We're ready to put a card together. It's crazy. So we're going to begin with our this is our little flap that's going to kind of hold our card closed. So this, I want to put adhesive right here on this 1/2 inch flap, and I've lost my adhesive. There it is. We're going to add, make sure you add plenty there. And remember, you're going to be adding it with the embossed side and the ink side up, okay? And what we want to do is we're going to just lay this. You see when it's folded over, it's going to line up right with the edge of my card. Now I'm keeping it down here at the bottom because I'm going to have my stamped image up here. So kind of leave yourself about inch and a half down here at the bottom. I'm going to add a layering piece to this. All right, can you see I've got a little piece of pecan pie. This is a 2 3/4 by 1 1/2. And I'm going to add this to the flap, and I'm going to put adhesive all the way down, and then make sure you get the end, because it's going to be sliding in and out of that, it's going to be a flap. We don't want it to get caught because it wasn't adhered down. So make sure you get all that adhered down well. All right, lining that up. It just kind of gives it a nice background. Now you can see I'm a little long. That's going to happen. We're just going to trim. We'll get that off of there. We're going to trim this away so that we have a nice clean edge. Now, let me kind of show you something here. This will never fly with me, right? It's ugly, so we're gonna cover it. I've got a piece of pecan pie, 4 by 5 1/4, and we're gonna cover this up. Now, let me tell you something. Whenever we have a little piece like this underneath, it kind of leaves a little lump underneath here. So when you're writing your message, you don't want to hit that and have your pen go flying. We don't want that. And I'm going to add another layer anyway, just because I think it's going to look nice and I don't want to try to write on pecan pie. So I've got a piece of very vanilla, 3 3/4 by 5. We're going to add that there. And that really kind of helps with that lump as well. It kind of smooths that out. All right. So we're going to add our embossed image right here to another piece of pecan pie. I love my layers. When you adhere this, I want you to put adhesive all the way down both sides. This is heavily embossed, and it can be tough to, sometimes it can be tough to get an embossed image to adhere well, because we've manipulated that cardstock, we've bent it, we've done all this great stuff with it. It's beautiful, but it does cause the cardstock, anything that is debossed, does not, you can't quite get adhesive on it. So that's why we're making sure we add adhesive all the way around. We want a good image. So I'm going to bring in some Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to put my flap down, and I'm going to kind of bring my dimensionals in a little bit. This is going to adhere right here, so I want to make sure my dimensionals aren't on that outside edge. And so I'll go about right here, and then I'm going to add 3 down this side, and then we'll get, again, making sure you're not close to that edge, and I'm going to get 1 right here. So the key is we don't want to hit where that flap's going to go. That's why I like to put my dimensionals on my actual card instead of putting them right here. We will add our beautiful embossed focal image right there. Check it out. Yes, so this just tucks right underneath there. Let's add a sentiment on the inside with some pecan pie. And today, both cards are going to feature the Label Me Grateful stamp set. This is a brand new one. 5 wonderful sentiments in this one. And we are simply going to say, you're the best. That kind of says it all, right? We will stamp that right up there. Now, I did want to add a little something to my card, so I'm going to bring in some ribbon. I'm going to be using the stray dimensional backings. They're everywhere. This is the Basic Beige Classic, and I'm going to tie mine in a bow. If you like to conserve your ribbon a little bit more, you could also do a knot. I think that would look just as pretty. But I like this ribbon. It ties beautifully, and we'll get ourselves a pretty little bow. And there you go, my friends. And so now when the recipient gets it, that flap just opens. You've got plenty of room to write your message, and it's just a gorgeous card with that embossing and using those blending brushes to make them pop. All right, would you like to see another card? This card, we're going to do a different blending brush technique because we're going to be using the white craft pad, and it gives a really unique look. Don't forget about the free download that I have for you that goes along with today's video. So if you'd like to recreate the cards, you can grab this at simplysimplestamping.com or look down in the YouTube description. I've got a direct link for you. Remember, you'll have the measurements, the supplies, everything that you need right there. So just like we did before, how we cut off the edge, and I'm using Summer Splash, but look at this embossed piece, and it looks very different. In fact, I got to tell you, I had this sitting on my desk at one time, and I thought it was vellum. It's just, there was something about that white craft pad. It really made it look beautiful. Guys, this card is going to go together much like our last one. My Summer Splash, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Remember, we cut off 2 1/8 inch to create our card base. And then this piece we cut down to 1 3/4 by 5 1/8, and this will be the piece we're going to emboss. And we're going to bring in a different embossing folder. So this is the Glass and Garden. Now this is a thinner embossing folder. So this one is not going to have quite as deep of an etched image, but don't worry, it's going to be beautiful. By the way, you notice this size is much smaller than my last one. This one can also go through your mini cut and emboss machine. So we're going to lay that. You can see the image goes right down the middle. We're going to emboss that. And then, of course, we have our flap. Remember how we did before, where we did not want our flap embossed? You're just going to place that so that it's hanging out the back. We'll get a really great embossed image, but we don't want any embossing there. I'm bringing in my white craft pad. Now, the craft ink is very different than our classic ink pads. This is a very thick ink, and it's going to go on a little bit differently. So if you're brand new to it, you might want to practice this maybe on some scrap or even just here on your grid paper to kind of get a feel for it. Now, I have a blending brush that is only used for my white craft pad. You notice I have a ribbon on it. That kind of triggers me to say, don't use this on anything else. I would not want to get my white ink into any of my other colored ink pads. So you might want to make sure you mark that one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tap that on our craft pad. I'm going to use this little bit here because it's black, because I want you to see it really comes out thick, right? So we're going to bring in our embossed cardstock, and I'm going to paint, okay? Right now I'm just going to paint. Now I don't recommend going back and forth, because what's going to happen is you're going to bend that cardstock back. So I tend to only go one direction. Here in a little bit, I can change that if I need to. Now, you notice I'm pressing a little bit harder now because I really want to get that white ink. See what I mean? See, I just did it, but don't worry, we'll be able to adhere that down. I'm going to get a little bit more, dab it off, gently paint that on. Now see, that's a little bit thicker. But again, not to worry. We can kind of manipulate that ink. We'll be able to just move that around And again, we want to get into all the grooves. It changes the color dramatically, and that's what I love about it. Now, the harder I press, we're going to get more of that ink. And you know what? This that's right here, I can pick that up too. Yeah, so because it stays wet for so long, it really allows me to do that. So yes, even though I kind of bent that, look, you'll never know it. We're going to do that same thing here with our flap. Here's something else you're going to notice. Look, I got white ink all over my fingers and my fingernails. So my little tip for a quick cleanup is an alcohol swab. If you guys saw my video, I did a whole video on how I use these alcohol swabs to clean up. And do you see, it looks like I got a little ink there. We'll use that and we'll do a little cleanup. That, because it's alcohol, it's going to dry really quickly. Remember, your adhesive is going to go on the flap with the embossed side up. We'll add that here to the side. Go ahead and fold it over. Make sure you've got you're straight with your card, with the side of your card. We're going to add, this time we're going to add some petal pink to the inside and a piece of basic white, so we'll be able to stamp our message there. You guys remember how we did our Stampin' Dimensionals. We're going to do that again. So remember, just make sure you get up at the top and down below so that your flap has a place to go. I'm going to adhere my embossed and colored image onto a piece of basic white. That is a 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. And we will lay that right over our Stampin' Dimensionals. So last time I used the pecan pie, but this one I'm going to add the basic white. Kind of went back and forth if I should add petal pink or basic white, but I really liked how the basic white looked. So remember to get that end. We're going to do our stamping, and this time it's in petal pink, again, just to bring out that color. And I got to tell you, at first I was like, ooh, is this color going to be too light for my sentiment? And you know what? It is not. A little kindness makes a big difference. It really, really brings out that color. And because I'm loving that color, I'm going to bring in this gorgeous scalloped petal pink ribbon. The scallops just look so pretty with this embossing folder. It really adds a lot, and again, a place to write your message. Friends, such a fun card. Hey, if you really wanted to add more embossing, you could add another piece on the inside as well. I would not add that with Stampin' Dimensionals, just keep that flat. But if you wanted to add a little more, I encourage you to do so. But like I said, I look at that and it just almost looks like vellum to me. I think it's so pretty with that white craft pad. Two fantastic cards. We've got that beautiful embossing, two very different techniques on that. And of course, what's not to love about this little extra flap, right? It just adds so much. And what a great way that we can use the strip that we cut off. And that's what we use to do our embossing. A great way to save our cardstock and have maybe a few less scraps in our stash. Thank you all so much for joining me today. As always, I always hope you enjoy the video. If you did, do me a favor. There's a like button there on YouTube and a little thumbs up. If you'll give me a thumbs up, I would truly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not click that subscribe button? It's free, and YouTube will let you know when I have a new video uploaded if you ring the bell. If you are a true blue paper crafter, you're going to want to check out my YouTube membership. Here we do lots of extra perks. We have a creating live that we do together. We create a fun fold card together. There's diagrams, there's tutorials, all kinds of great things. Click the join button and you'll read about the 3 tiers, and I'd love to have you join. We have a blast over there. Well, friends, that is all for me. Thank you again for being here. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I can't wait to stamp with you next time. See ya. Bye-bye.